coming up, but I do know that our agenda is packed, and for that, I think that we can probably kick off now. So a very warm welcome to everyone to this webinar today on green tech startups. Let me introduce myself. I'm Elisabetta Marani. I'm founder of the Young Sustainability Network, also abbreviated as TYSN. And if you've never heard of TYSN, then you are absolutely in the right place, because you'll find out all about us and get a taste of what we do in the next hour or so. I know for sure I am, hope you are too, really excited to be here. This is our third edition of the Sustainability Career Landscapes webinar series. Maybe some of you attended our previous webinars on sustainable supply chain and how to get started on a sustainability career. But if you're new, we hope you find value, information, and inspiration from today's event. Today, we talk about what it's like to work in sustainability, but in a startup. We will try to answer the questions of what's the difference compared to working in bigger corporations, what skills or persona are needed, and much more. And we are in pretty good company for that, as we invited 3 startup founders to talk about it with us. But I'll give them the chance to intro themselves very shortly. First, we can go to the next slide for a quick icebreaker, and to be in line with today's theme and to warm the room, or break the ice, as we say, I invite all of you in this virtual room we're in to type in the chat what comes to your mind when you think working in a startup. It can be anything. There's no right or wrong answers. Any word that you're thinking right now, just go. I already see a few ones coming in. Great. I'll just read out some of them. Exciting. We have fast-paced, dynamic, innovation, wearing many hats, opportunity, inspiration, overworked, building from scratch, surprises, playing ping pong during lunch break. Well, our speakers will attest to that later, maybe. Great. Hectic, just the last one that came in. Well, I hope that by the end of today's webinar, you'll have found out for yourself if your initial assumptions from these words about working a startup, maybe they were correct, or maybe you had prejudices that turned out not to be true. So we'll see. But for now, let's go to the next slide. And we always start with who TYSN is, although it's more about what we do than who we are. We'll cover that too. I'd like to say a few words on our mission and vision. So we are a global community that aims to empower and support young professionals as they embark in a career in sustainability. We were founded in 2021, and we have grown into a thriving community of 3,500 members to date. And we also have a core team of volunteers. If you're wondering what it takes to be a member, there's no criteria or application. You can just sign up on our webpage and follow us on our socials, and you'll step into a great network that you can tap into as you progress in your sustainability career. And then going to the next slide, that's all nice words, but what do we actually do? Well, we provide resources. I won't go into the details of that now. You can just stalk us on LinkedIn and Instagram and see our contents. We also host events like this one you're in right now. And we have peer groups that meet up monthly to really facilitate networking and conversations about sustainability careers. Okay, going to the agenda of today, we'll define what green tech is. We'll give an overview on the main stages of startups. And then we'll go into the panel discussion with guest speakers. And we will wrap up with a session of Q&As from you all. In fact, feel free to type in the chat at any point during the webinar your questions or comments or thoughts, and we'll pick them up on the Q&A session towards the end. So don't be shy, you can start typing your questions right away. So the topic of today is working in green tech. So let's shed light on what is green tech before we go explore the startup perspective on it. And for that, we can move on to the next slide. So green tech, which of course stands for green technology, has the goals of finding new ways to fulfill our needs while reducing our negative impact on the environment. For example, by replacing existing technologies with eco-friendly ones, and by doing that, creating a lot more jobs. It's a booming market. It's currently valued at $10 billion, and it's projected to reach $74 billion by 2030. And in very few words, a green tech company can be summarized in a sentence as one that has a positive environmental impact at its core. It was founded with that very purpose. Okay, so let's now move on to recap startup stages, because each startup founder attending today is at a different stage, as you can see from where I have placed the logo on the slide. And it's important, of course, to know the difference also for career prospects. So in a few words, to found your business, you first ideate, you go to market, and you grow. And there's different widely known stages of reference that I listed on the right. Each is a sort of milestone of the funding and business maturity journey. So I'll go through them very quickly. The pre-seed, the startup at this stage is still really building the product, still ideating the concept. Investors at this stage are pretty much friends, maybe that friend that still owes you a favor, or family, like your uncle who always believed in your potential. Angel investors, those are really rich people that want to invest in new ideas, but also incubators or accelerators programs. So it's really the idea funding stage. Then you move to the seed stage. It's often referred as the first official fundraising stage. So here, for example, venture capitalists are more willing to engage on top of family and friends. At this stage, you as a business founder should have already clearly demonstrated that it works, that your product works, and that there is a demand for it. As you move into Series A, that's the time to scale up. Significant investment is required. That's the big leagues. You're no longer bound to family and friends. It's strictly for venture capital firms and super angels. And then as you go through the other series, so B, C, D, and so forth, you just go into bigger and more complex financing rounds, of which we won't go into the details of, mainly because I don't know the details of it. So it can include some level of debt, but at this stage, the startup is mature and in full growth. And then finally, exit is typically you go public, so with an initial public offering, IPO, or you get acquired as a company, or you go through a merge. Okay, but enough me talking about startup stages. Let's go speak with people who actually founded companies and work there. So we can go to the next slide where you can see their faces, but you also see them live right now. So I suggest we do a quick round of intros. So speakers, I'd like you to present yourselves in a very summarized version with a focus on your career story and your company that you're founder of in more or less 2 minutes each. You'll have the chance to expand and develop in the panel discussion, so just don't give it all out just yet. We'll keep it simple. We'll just follow the order of the pictures. So Luis, you can go first.
All right, so you can all hear me, I guess. Very happy to be here. So I'm Louis, co-founder and CEO of Tapio. At Tapio, we try to accelerate the climate transition, leveraging technology. So we're providing the tools company and experts needs to accelerate the climate transition. I have been studying business engineering in a business schools in Belgium called Solvay. After that, I left Belgium for South America, where I created a company where we have been importing and distributing a Belgian chocolate created for a South American market. I stayed there for 3 years. I came back in Belgium after that to work at Deliveroo. I wanted to learn with the big guys, so stay in the startup environment, but in a, let's say, a bit richer environment with more strategy and process in place. So I've been working there for 3 years. And I left the company 3 years ago again to start Tapio. So basically I did 3 different experiences in 3 different areas, 3 different countries, and 3 very different topics, but all with this environment, with this entrepreneur angle. So yeah, I think that's a good introduction, and I give the 20 remaining second to Nina.
Okay, I'll think of something else to say. Hi everyone, I'm Nina. I'm based in Berlin. I'm the co-founder and chief product officer at Klim. We are a climate startup that works on regenerative agriculture. And I'm going to start chronologically. So I studied politics back in the day, but never really wanted to work in politics. Although I admit it sometimes comes in handy with agriculture, so it wasn't the worst choice of all. But then I always worked in startups, had a very sort of typical Berlin thing where I did an internship at Rocket Internet when I was 19, was given lots of responsibility with like absolutely no clue, which was a great experience for 6 months, but not for longer. And then, I got really interested in product work and worked at a nutrition startup in London, created my first startup in London in the breakfast delivery space, but like super bootstrapped, wasn't even looking for investment. It was more for fun, but it worked, and they actually still exist, but they're based out of Zurich now. And then I wanted to learn from people who have a bit more experience. So I took a job at Airbnb, working on the launch of Airbnb experiences and gaining more product knowledge there. And then did a little bit of a detour in the agency world because I liked the idea of working on lots of different products. But then I did that for 2.5 years and gained lots of experiences doing projects for big brands like Louis Vuitton and Mini and Nike and like lots of brands. But ultimately, I really wanted to go back to the startup world and also really wanted to do something in sustainable agriculture. And so then I met my co-founders and started Klim. That's it.
Great. So hi everyone, I'm Alejandra. I'm the co-founder of Orbic, which is a multi-stakeholder platform that connects brands and consumers with digital assets of products and materials. And we're enabling circular business models along the downstream of the value chain. I studied political science with focus on international relations, and I also did a master in management. And for 5 years, I worked in different multinational companies that actually helped me to like nourish my commercial skills and also my structural thinking. And yeah, we are in the market already like 1 year already with the startup. And yeah, that's me. And yeah, I give now the word to Ellie.
Thank you all for the intros. I love the variety of academic backgrounds of even countries and sectors of sustainability. I think that already sends a strong message, and it's the one that we always want to transmit with the work at TYSN, that there is no linear career path for sustainability. There are really limitless options of what to study and what to work in the realm of environmental sustainability. All right, well, then we can start with the panel discussion. Marie, you can stop screen sharing so that we see each other's faces, and it's almost like we were in an actual room. Great. So we'll start with a question to all of you, actually. And I wanted to ask, generally, what advice would you give to someone looking for a job in a startup, particularly entry-level young professionals, like the people that are attending here today? Are there any heads up on what to definitely expect or not expect? This question, again, is addressed to all of you. Maybe we can start with Nina.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think I can definitely give some advice in terms of how to maybe increase your chances of getting the job, because we get loads and loads of young applicants and lots of really smart people. But the two big issues I see are people who are really smart but don't know what area they want to work in. So when someone gets in touch with us and says, oh, I love what you're doing, and I just finished studying this and that, and I'm interested in everything. I love marketing, I love product, I love sales, I love science, I love agriculture. It's super hard for us to actually find a role for them. And it's much, much easier if someone comes to us and says, hey, I love what you're doing and I'm really interested in product. Even if they don't have the experience yet, at least they know where they want to go, and we can really start to think about how we can integrate them into the right team. So my first piece of advice would be like, don't be too much of a generalist, because it's going to be hard. It's going to be harder. The second thing, which I think is super easy, but we get so many applicants of people who say that they're super passionate about the climate and sustainability. But it makes a huge difference for me when I speak to someone who says, I'm really passionate about your topic. I watched a documentary on Netflix on regenerative agriculture, and I really want to work in that field. That makes a huge difference. Even you don't, again, like you don't have to be an expert, like literally just watch one documentary on Netflix, but at least then we feel like people are really going to be passionate to really look into that topic, because there's too many people who are passionate about the climate as a whole. That would be my two factors that I always find it like such a shame when I get a great applicant, but they don't really get those things right.
Right, it's too broad, be specific, know what you like and concentrate on that. Clear. Louis, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Nina, so I won't repeat what she said, but it's actually pretty correct. Maybe I could emphasize the fact that you should be open-minded, because as you explained it, the different stages of the platform, a startup, there is a very high chances that startup will operate some pivot within the next 12 to 24 to 36 months, like almost sure they will evolve. So be ready to adapt. That's one thing. Another one would be that passion is not enough. Like we get a lot of people that love what we do, love the topic, love, like they even know what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, we need people ready to work. And so passion is necessary to work in a startup, because it's gonna be challenging, it's gonna be hard and everything. So you need to be passionate about what you're doing, but that's not enough. And we already had to stop working with some people because we were fully aligned on the values, but not on the delivery. So it's not, like you said, it's not only about ping pong and so you need to do more than that. And I would say that the main risk with very young people is the lack of autonomy. And that's for me the big difference between something junior and somebody junior and somebody senior is the fact that to a junior you have to say we're going to do that and that's how we're going to do it, and somebody senior you can say we're going to do that and they will figure it out how to do it. So the more autonomy you show, the higher chances you'll get to get the job. Yeah.
No, absolutely clear. So I got that people need to be ready to adapt. Also, being aligned to the values of the startup is not enough. You also have to know that you need to deliver. And also autonomy should be your strength, not your weakness. Alejandra, you're up. You're muted though.
Hi, sorry. I also wanted to add that it's really important as well, like to check the stage of the startup and to see also like what is their vision, and that you also guys check, because I think ambition and also the vision of a startup is really, really important at the beginning when you join, and that there is a roadmap and that you understand where is it going to. Like it's really important. So those are my views.
Great. And linking to that, in fact, I'll start with you this time. What do you think generally attracts young people to work in startups? So other than playing ping pong during lunch break, clearly, but are there any false myths that maybe to debunk?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think one of the main motivations is to think out of the box, and also innovation, so that people, maybe when you work in a multinational, in the corporate world, sometimes you feel like you're fixed to a job description, but in the startup, you have the possibility to actually propose and like meet people from everywhere, like at different departments. Like you have a wider mind and a lot of more tools actually to work in.
Nina, would you have anything else to debunk or what you think attracts people in general?
Debunk or confirm. Yeah, I mean, I think just probably the responsibility you get, right? I mean, when we started, I mean, at the very beginning, we were literally 2 people, and then, you know, we had our first intern, and because there was no one else, she was responsible for lots of things, and then, you know, 6 months later, she was a full-time employee. Now she manages other people, and this was her first job straight out of uni. So I think that the growth opportunities, both in terms of learning, but also in terms of then how quickly you can actually get to a position, are truly there for an early stage startup. So I think also picking up what Alejandra said about like making sure that you check which state the startup is at, because, you know, a lot of companies still consider themselves a startup when they have 500 people, and there, of course, you won't get that. But when you go somewhere really early stage, I do think that it's a bit of a gamble, right? Like the company could be bankrupt in 6 months, but also you could have an amazing position in a year or 2.
Right, of course, that's a risk that people should be willing to take. And now turning back to Luis, so you mentioned how being autonomous is something needed for someone wanting to work in a startup. Other than that, would you say there is, you know, a specific persona or personality way of being or working that would help people, you know, fitting well in a startup? I don't know if you want to expand a little bit more on other traits that startup employees should probably have.
Yeah, I think these two questions are all linked. I think that what drives people is the potential impact they can have within the company. But I would maybe redefine a little bit startup, because I think some companies, even bigger companies, still have that fiber, that energy, and sometimes you should look at the job, because some big companies offers you this startup within the company. So you could work on a very innovative topic within a very big company that might not be very sexy. So I won't limit my search to startup only. And you can find a startup that has already implemented a lot of process and that cut this opportunity of innovation and freedom. So I think that's interesting to look at the problem with that angle. And for me, the persona is somebody ready to able to innovate, because at the end of the day, we do not really know what we're doing. Like we think we do, but if you look 6 months back, you probably had another angle, another go-to-market, another persona, another vision, whatever. So it's evolving all the time. So what we need is people. What we need are people ready to innovate, excited about innovation, and that are ready to look at challenges, at problem like challenges. Like for us, a problem is either something you cannot move and then it's a constraint, or is an opportunity. If you look at it as a problem, you'll be depressed. So I think that's very important for me. So people that are really ready to be excited to tackle challenges. At the end of the day, a startup is just a sum of problems that you have to solve. So if you're not excited about it, it's going to be very, very tricky. So yeah, I would say that innovation and I don't know the word in English, but yeah, ready to tackle problems.
Yeah, the mindset who gets excited about solving problems and not depressed about seeing problems. No, very clear. Nina, is there anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I think it's a little bit related to Louis' second point, but I think, I mean, for me, one of the things I value the most when I hire people is being proactive. So I think, you know, the assumption should always be that there's not enough people to do the work at a startup. There's never enough resources. And so also as the founder or even as a senior team member, you never really have time to even identify all of the problems. So, you know, having people who see the problem and then say, oh, I'm noticing that, you know, there's this thing on our website and like, I've already thought of a solution. Do you think that might work? That takes so much weight off our shoulders if we're not the only ones thinking about even identifying the problems and people being proactive. I think that for me is one of the most important things.
Absolutely, makes sense. So now let's switch to more of a career development angle. So from this perspective of, you know, you join in a startup and then what are your prospects for the future? how is working in a startup different than working for an established company or big corporations? Alejandra, we can start with you.
Well, I think that relates as well, like to the first question, and I believe like, yeah, it's completely different, and especially on the side that everything relies on you, on what you do, and that of course you have to work much more sometimes when you're a founder, especially. You don't have like a schedule, you have really long working hours, and you have everything in your plate. So I think that's one of the main difference, and that of course you have to rely on yourself, and no one is going to be there to, of course, to support you. Yes, but it's also, being a founder is a lonely journey. So on that side, I think it's completely different. I don't know, Nina, if you have also, especially also as a female founder, I think it's also like really challenging.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing probably, especially for people starting out in their careers, and I think that's like definitely a downside of working in startups. I don't want to pretend like everything is better. I do think that especially in younger startups, you just have fewer people to teach you. So yeah, you have, like Alejandro said, like you really have, like you don't have someone telling you what to do necessarily, and that can be great, but that can also be scary, right? And you might find yourself thinking like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I want to learn from this experience, but can I really learn if no one is actually giving me feedback and no one is showing me how to do it right? So I think there's huge upsides, because I think you learn super quickly. You're kind of being thrown in the cold water, but there's also definitely some downsides where you might miss out on some learning opportunities, on some mentoring opportunities, on some like growth opportunities. Sometimes it just goes too quickly to be able to really focus on helping people grow, I think.
Understood. Louis, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say that the upside of all that scary comments is that it's also very fast. It's way faster. it's limitless. So you can grow very fast, but of course you will learn by doing. So you won't have anybody to teach you. Maybe something to add on that. Recently, I had some people from my team coming back to me saying, "Hey, I found that that mentor outside of the company. Would you be ready to give me a small budget to pay that person to help me 1, 2, 3 hours a month?" And it was kind of a workaround. So it's really like proactivity. It's like, okay, I have no time to, I'm not able to mentor you on that because I actually don't know how to do it. But if you think out of the box, there is workaround, and there is many ways to do so. It's an example of you can find a workaround, and you have to. So yeah, even though it might be tough, it's also very exciting.
It does sound exciting. Indeed. So let's dive in a little bit more in your companies, actually. So specifically to Louis and Nina, it would be great if you could describe your current team in your startup, and if there's any growth or hiring that you're currently going through, would be, I think, very useful to everyone attending. If you could give a taste of the type of profiles you're looking for, or in general describe how you're planning to grow your team at this stage you're at. Louis, since your microphone is already on, you can start.
Okay, thanks. So at Tapio, we have 3 main teams. We have what we will call a revenue team, so anything covering marketing to sales. Then we have the service team, so delivering the mission the sales team is signing, hopefully. And we have the tech team, so developing the tools the service team is using to deliver the service to the customers. Within these 3 teams, we hire very different people. In the tech team, we hire developers, data engineer, data analysts, and yeah, that's pretty much it. We recently seniorized the team, so we are now able to hire younger players. In the service team, that's a very big challenge for us, because senior carbon experts we need do not exist on the market. These guys already have a job. So we have two options. We can try to convince them to come to work at Tapio rather than another company, but most of the time that's coming with a price. So what we did is we created an internal cursus allowing them to grow very fast in this area. So we try to hire people with the soft skills, able to deliver services and able to deliver a mission to a customer, and we provide them what they need to become expert in the climate area. So that is a job we will hire intensively in the coming months and years, and that is a very needed job on the market in general. And in the sales team, it's a bit different. We are hiring, let's say, mediocre profiles, because it's very complex to hire very junior profiles in the sales area, but it's not excluded. And then we, in that area, we are more hiring people with like good interpersonal skills, the ability to understand the needs of the customers, not people, not hard sellers. We're not looking for people who are pushing the product. That's absolutely not the idea. We try to identify the need, and if we can help, we're happy to help. So yeah, that would be the three main jobs we are type of job open now at Tapio.
And how many are currently in the team?
We're 15. We plan to be above 20 by the end of the year. But we are really focused on a sustainable growth, and I won't say fully organic growth, but we're not racing to be the biggest, to have the biggest team, to raise the more money. That's absolutely not the goal. So yeah, today we're 15, and we are looking sales and climate experts. So that would be the two main focus.
And one last clarification, are you always hiring like locally, so where your company is registered, which if I'm not wrong is Belgium, or are you also open to hiring overseas or within the European Union and or others?
So we plan to grow, so when we are going to open new markets, we will be ready to hire where we open markets, but to hire young people, we will not hire fully remote profiles, because we believe you need to learn from your peers, and it's very important to be there. But we hire people from other countries that came to live in Belgium, and we have people from Chile, Italy, even Belgium, but there is no problem there. But we won't hire a junior profile working from home, like fully remotely. That's something we do not do today.
Very clear. Nina, you're up.
Yeah, nice. So we're currently a team of 30. We are split in 5 core teams. The product team, which I lead, the engineering team, which is basically the tech team, marketing, sales, and the agricultural team. And so there's a lot of collaboration. There's loads of cross-functional topics, but those are sort of the 5 big areas. And then we also, on top of that, we have sort of a company team, which is like our CEO, our people manager. That's pretty much it for now, and like a founder's associate. And in terms of open roles at the moment, we are hiring mostly on the agricultural side, as well as on the sales side and key account management. And we're also hiring some software engineers. So I can totally support what Louis also said in terms of sustainable growth. I think, there was a whole period where startups hired super quickly, fired super quickly, often hired the wrong people because they were hiring too fast. There's definitely lots of cases like that in Berlin. And so we really try to focus more on quality than quantity. And also in the current investment climate, I think, most startups are really trying to extend their runways at the moment and trying to reduce their burn rates. So I would imagine that most startups are hiring a little bit less, but that might also be true for us. But I think we have around 15 or 16 open positions at the moment. So you can definitely have a look if you're in any of these areas. And you asked about the remote thing. So our main office is in Berlin, and we definitely prefer people to be here. For certain roles, it's also okay for it to be remote, but generally it's definitely a huge plus if you're in Berlin.
Yes, for very understandable reasons. Then I have a question for Alejandra on still, of course, focusing on your business story. What inspired you to create your own company? And looking back, would you say you were fully aware of the risks and challenges? Any lessons learned to share with us?
Yes, of course. Yeah, since I was studying political science, actually there was the possibility to join other classes, for example, from engineering or from business. And I remember I chose entrepreneurship. And what I loved about entrepreneurship is that I could actually combine the political science side with the business side, because to create a business, you need empathy and you have to find solutions for actual problems. And this was my main inspiration, actually, to create impact, to have tangible impact, and that it's in my hands. That was my first, let's say, inspiration. And on the other side, one of the main challenges, of course, the risk is the economic risk that you do not have at the beginning, of course, like a salary or something like stable, and you have to rely either in your family or to apply for funding, which I think is the most challenging part. But I believe that if anyone think that they can change something, that either need a solution or to solve a problem or actually change the status quo, I think everyone has a quote on that, and you need to believe in yourself to do it. So I think the risk, I'm happy, and I will never regret the risk that I have taken, because like I have believed it. And of course there is also something else as well, and it's like always here for feedback and don't be stubborn. And the feedback that actually investors, businesses, like actually researchers as well, university can give you is really important. So always believe in yourself. And I think that is what has been like my inspiration.
So for sure, a lot of self-faith and self-confidence to succeed.
Yes.
Nina, would there be anything else you would add in your own path to your startup?
Yeah, I think so I totally agree with Alejandra, and I think it's so much a question of mindset. I think it's important that you think of your own situation, like what are you willing to give up, and how are you willing to approach this experience? Or for instance, when I started my first startup, I was still in university, and so I very much saw it as a learning experience. And I had a scholarship at uni, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to invest maximum the amount of money that a year of university would have cost me. And if at the end of this investment, I haven't gotten anywhere, it's okay, because I will have learned something from the experience. I'm sure I will have learned at least as much as in a year of uni. So that was kind of the approach I took at the time. And it really helped me to, stay a little bit relaxed and not worry too much about every single thing going wrong. And of course, now I'm in a completely different situation. I'm much older. I have, rent to pay. I'm not at uni anymore. It's not a side project anymore. So I think it's really important that you sort of think about like, what is your situation, and, what resources do you have? Can your parents support you? How do you live? And kind of make decisions according to that. And because I think for some people, they realize that they can have an entrepreneurial project, whether it's founding something or doing something on the side, without necessarily, putting their whole life at risk, because you can start it on the side, or, maybe if you're still in uni, maybe it's a great time to already start doing it, so that it's not too scary, essentially.
Of course, we need to acknowledge that if you want full, stable financial security, you need to be in the right mindset to take such a step in the startup world, for sure. Okay, so one last question from, let's say, this panel session. It's actually a very quick one. I'd like to ask all speakers to name one, like the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity of working in a startup? Nina, you can start.
Oh my God. I mean, I think the biggest challenge is sort of not necessarily having a support network, which I think you would have in other companies. And the biggest opportunity is the responsibility that you can take and the way that you can grow and prove yourself. But this was a very quick answer, so I might want to change it in the future, but this is it for now.
We'll call you back in a year or so to know if you'll confirm. Who wants to go next?
Okay, I'll go. I would say that the biggest opportunity is to be yourself and have an impact. The biggest challenge is there is a high chances that you'll be on your own, so you have to have some limits, because you could work too much, go too far, and damage yourself. There is no, these boundaries most of the time do not exist in a startup, and they might exist in big groups. So it's very difficult to understand the difference between working hard and be very motivated and be a bit crazy. So you have to be careful there.
I love this last part. Alejandra, how about you?
Yes, I think the biggest opportunity is that it's a natural way to upskill yourself, because you have to learn for so many things. That's and the biggest challenge, I think, it's to rely on yourself and literally believe in yourself. I think that's the biggest, and also, yeah, learning and learning and learning.
Great. Well, thanks a lot. And all of these insights that you all shared will be summarized in a post next week. So for everyone attending, I know there were many anecdotes and insights, but we took notes. So don't worry, you can read it all out again and listen again, because we're also recording the session. So all of this golden advice is not lost forever. Okay, so now I guess we can kick off the Q&A session. I see a few questions on the chat, and I'll read them out now. I never liked starting lists from the top, so I'll just start from the bottom. Question from Emily. So the question is, how often are you hiring employees with professional experience, not in the sustainability field, but people that are looking to make the shift? This is actually a really good question, because it's really aligned with what we try to shed light on as TYSN. So would you hire people that don't have sustainability experience in a sustainability startup? Who wants to answer or start answering?
Okay, I have been impolite all the sessions, so I'll start. Yeah, definitely. I actually do not really care. The important thing is to be aligned on the values. Doesn't mean you have to be working in a startup, green startup all your life. And the growth you showed at the beginning is also self-explaining. We cannot, like, if we all hire people already working in this field, there is not enough people. So I do not absolutely do not need them to have that background. And I actually think that it's pretty cool that more and more people are quitting their current job to shift, to try to have an impact on everything, because at the end of the day, that's today for young people, and I'm including myself in young people, is the best way to have an impact, is to refuse to work in a company that is not aligned with your values. That's sending a very strong message to the market, and it's actually a very it's one of the main reasons why big companies are coming to us. They're coming to us saying, I'm not able to hire anymore because people do not understand why they would work for us. So yeah, we do, and I think it's actually.
Anyone else wants to?
Yeah, I mean, I have a huge bias because I don't have a sustainability background, but I actually, in certain cases, I think it's super important to make sure that we are not only in a sustainability bubble, especially when we think about things like marketing and sales. I think it's super important that we learn from the people who make loads of money for huge corporates, who have sort of, also quite, like, I don't want to say aggressive sales techniques, but really, effective sales techniques. And I think sometimes there's a little bit this thing of like, oh, everyone should come from a sustainability background, but for a really long time, a lot of people in sustainability were working more in NGOs or political functions, and those are not the people who really know how to sell most of the time. So maybe that's because I have a huge bias there, but I think it's, like Louis said, it's great that lots of people are transitioning into the space, and I think it's crucial that we take the skills from people who use these capabilities to make corporates lots of money to now do it for impact reasons.
Yeah, totally with you on that. So we'll move on to the next question from Brianna. So I'm a marketing major in college. Will there be opportunities for me to work in sustainability with this degree alone? Which actually ties well with another question that we had from Rainy Gregory, asking if you would recommend taking environmentally related classes or courses before working in sustainability. So in general, from an academic background, would you say you're limited if you've never taken a course or just with a bachelor's degree that's really not related to sustainability? Are you still open to that?
I think more than the degree, it's important to have knowledge and to at least have a course or something. I think that's definitely like a must when you start, and not necessarily a degree in engineering or like, but it's important to have a background, I will say. And also sustainability is getting a bit more narrow. Before it was really broad, and now it's like upskilling in the topic that you would like to work in, and that will give you a lot of pluses when you apply. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think like the more experience you have, the better. So if your experience is coming from a degree you took, fine. If you have not, you should be able to show other leverage of experience. Could be a startup you started at school. It could be, I don't know, sport achievements, could be anything. But yeah, I really think it's important to show that we're looking for doers. So if you did nothing and you just wake up at 22 and say, I'm starting to do something now, it's going to be complex because there is other people who have been doing things for like 10 years. So yeah, I would say that, and then try to be creative. At the end of the day, we're people, and when we see a resume, we love to find something exciting, like something that we can have a discussion on. If it's only I have been backpacking in South America and I took 1 year off and I love nature, yeah, but it's probably the same thing for the next 200 resume we are going to get. So we're looking for some sparkles, some craziness, something a bit different. I got somebody that was 21 and he did 2 years in the army. So I was like, how is that possible? So we had a discussion about that. And at the end of the day, he took an internship with us, and it was just because it's different. So yeah, it's an experience, but
Thank you. Thanks for the insights. So then someone is asking, when founding a startup, you choose to focus on a specific issue to solve, let's say an environmental issue. How do you balance that with other sustainability challenges like diversity, sustainable providers, etc., especially with limited resources?
I guess the question is around how to prioritize which problem you're going to solve. Is that a fair interpretation of the question?
Yes, I think so. And also from the angle of, yeah, you concentrate on one issue, but you should also not forget about the other ones that we're facing as humanity.
Well, I mean, we can't all solve all problems, right? So I think you should start with what you're interested in, to be honest, because you're going to spend so much time thinking about this topic, this issue, this customer, this field, that if you only think about like what is most needed and you don't think about like what do you actually want to spend your time on, I think it's going to be very, very hard to keep doing this for years and years. And then I think you should think about what is actually a good fit for my skills. So for instance, you know, me personally, like I'm very much like a human person. So we work both with farmers and with businesses. I work much more on the farming side and I love working with farmers. I would have a really hard time building a product that only works with companies and is like a huge B2B SaaS enterprise product, because I think it's not a good fit for my skills and my personality. So I would think like, what are you interested in? What matches your skills? And then of course there should be a strong driver in terms of the impact you can have, but definitely don't try to solve all problems at the same time.
And if I can add something, I would say that this question is not related to the impact world, is related to any entrepreneur. Like the biggest challenge is to focus. Everybody will say focus, 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 and you think you understand, but you never do. So if when you're focused, for example, we are focusing on greenhouse gas, and we think that's already narrow. But when you deep dive, there is so many, like every company on earth is producing greenhouse gas. So you could be working in fashion, in real estate, on services, in agriculture, in whatever. So the topic is actually very, very broad. So you could narrow that down. You could focus even more and even more and even more. And I think at the end of the day, you want to have an impact. So if you're doing everything, you're doing nothing. So yeah, for us, it's really try to focus, and yeah, you cannot solve everything. So just pick one, and that's already a lot.
Yeah, no, very clear. Then there is another question, and I think Nina, you already partially answered. So maybe Alejandro and Louis, you can give your 2 cents. What are the possible ways to find a suitable field for one from a plethora of sustainable options available? So I think that this is the general big $1 million question of how do you know across the many different fields of sustainability what you would actually enjoy working in and advancing from a startup?
Yes, well, my suggestion will be actually with the European Green Deal. They have a couple of different directives and plans for the next 30 years. And I think reading it through, like seeing what is the plan that the European Union is having towards sustainability and decarbonization, that can help a lot actually to select one of the topics. And that will be like the most clear advice I can give. And then after that, maybe checking some of the leaders in sustainability, like let's say universities that are giving courses in Coursera or in EDX, and just join these courses and deep dive in this topic. And right now, I think the good thing about sustainability is that we can become experts because it's really new as well. So I really advise like everyone, like they're interested, there are tons of materials as well for you guys. And yes, I think that will be the shot.
Yeah, I think there is many topics. So just explore and try to open your mind to discover what you like, and to yeah, follow what Nina said. I think there is this way to look at where you're good. So if you find something you're good at and you love to do and it's needed, if you find that sweet spot, then there is a massive leverage. And that's not always the case. A lot of people love to do some stuff they're very bad at, or they do not like to do stuff they're very good at, or they love to do stuff and they're very good at and nobody needs it and nobody cares. So if you find these three things together, it will position you at a very interesting spot, because you have a massive leverage on the company, your team, your boss, whoever. It's like you will be needed. So yeah, I would say like do what Alexandra said and what Nina said, and you're good.
Yeah, it's always about finding that sweet spot, and for some it's so straightforward, and for so many of us it takes time, it takes years. So for sure, devote enough time to figure that out. So thank you so much. We only have 1 minute left. There were a few more questions, but we don't have time to go through them, unfortunately. We're gonna have to wrap up. So speakers, it's been fun. Thanks for the great insights.
Thank you.
To all attendees, thank you so much for joining today. I hope this was informative and inspirational for all of you as much as it was for me, and which is very much. Our speakers are happy to be contacted for further questions. You can connect with them on LinkedIn. And of course, it would be great if you can follow us on socials, talk about us to your peers and friends so that we get to reach more people and grow our community. So see you all soon at our next event, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.